Okay, welcome back. So what are we gonna do today? I recently purchased a copy of Pokemon Blue from eBay. It was listed as untested. That's about the only way I could get them for under list value from price charting, which kind of sucks. There's some fading on the label, but really I just wanted these for myself, so as long as I could have a collection of the Pokemon, I'd be stoked. I gotta catch them all in terms of just the game cartridges themselves, because apparently I have a hyper addictive personality. So, let's see what's going on here. Truth be told, I have been inside of this. The second I got it, I opened it to see, let's see what Untested looks like, before I even tried to power it on. This will be powering it on together for the first time. When I opened it, it looks like someone's been in here and done some damage, so I have a feeling this was not quite untested and more like tried to fix and it didn't work. So let's see what happens. Got it in. Okay, got a Nintendo. Oh, that's better than I thought I was gonna get. Got our little ding. And I think we just tapped out. Let's try that again. Nintendo. Ding. So here we are. We got Pokemon Blue. Let's start by taking it apart. We have one game bit in the back, and that is it. So let's take that out. Oh yeah. Okay. The first criticism I got on my first video, which I appreciate the feedback, was that it was too long. So hopefully this one does not take me an eternity. So here we go. We have got the inside of this. And the first thing that I saw, there's quite a few things, but it looks like it's missing parts. And it looks like there's some damage. I don't know if the battery's good. There's damage on this side of the board. There's corrosion up here. I honestly only saw this the first time. Let's start by looking at another game I bought. So I knew that I was gonna have to replace this part. I went out and I looked for that part, and so I thought, well, the best way to probably get that is to find another board that has the same chips. I went to a vintage stock and I looked at what they had in stock, and it turns out that the only games I could find that had that were Mary Kate and Ashley's Pocket Planner. I was lucky enough to get two of them. I'm gonna put Pokemon off to the side a little bit. Let me zoom out so we can have a little comparative analysis. Let's go ahead and open this up. What do we have? It does not have the same chip. I hope that it is a similar working chip, but I will also open the nether one. So the battery is used to keep the SRAM alive. This is pre-flash, before you could just store memory for an extended period of time without power, so you had to keep power constantly. Most people are aware of that. It continued on into N64 days, and if you wanted to keep your saves, you had to find a way to replace these batteries. Flash and other mechanisms have come out since, where you keep a small amount of charge on the gates of a bunch of transistors inside of here, and it can just sit there for years. Flash is usually good to about 10 years without being repowered. Granted, you need to power it every so often to reassert all those states. But in this case, it corrupts as soon as your power is removed. So let's see what this other one has to hold. So, okay, again, this doesn't list that chip, but hopefully that is the same thing. Okay, so I found a group that seems to be cataloging a lot of this information. And they have a photograph of what the board looks like, and it does appear that the clock is not present. Neither are the two parts that were down here, which probably are capacitors for that clock. So the first thing I'm going to focus on is replacing this chip. It is not the same chip, but I will try to look and see if that part's the same. Okay, so I wasn't able to find a data sheet for the one product. I was able to find that it is a supervisor chip. It looks like it's used in the same kind of configuration on this, so I feel pretty comfortable doing the swap since this one's broken anyway. So really quickly, let's test the batteries. But I can boot the game without it. I just can't get the supervisor chip, so. But let's start with this guy. I'm gonna go under the scope. So you can see the problem that we have with this. That's a bit of a not working anymore kind of situation. This guy's the supervisor chip. There's some corrosion that has occurred. There's corrosion down in these vias. This could get problematic real fast. That via is gone. That via is gone. But I'm not ready to say, you know, this is definitely going to be more work than I intended. But let's just see what we can do. So first things first, let's take this guy off. Next, we'll clean off some of the corrosion and just see what we're left with in terms of continuity. This has got some corrosion here, so hopefully that's not something that I'm totally necessarily needing. And then we need to reflow these pads, clean some stuff up. I'm hoping I have continuity through a lot of these vias. If not, I'm gonna have to do a lot of wiring. But I want a fucking Pokemon Blue, bro. And that's what I'm here for, so. Alright, I'm going to try to hot air gun this off. Somebody tried to fuck with these pads a lot, and I don't want to fuck with them any more than I have to. So, I'm going to start by putting Kapton over some of the parts I don't want to come off the board. Hopefully that will hold off the heat long enough for me to get the main chip off the board, so. Okay. Looks like we're good on that side and that side. If anyone is looking for a supervisor chip replacement, I might have one for you. It'll be, you know, like new product. So that's a problem. That's going in the shit can over there. We have that one part off. Now I'm gonna remove the battery. So, one battery. Next, I'm just gonna wick up all the solder on those pads just so that I can clean the board up. Ooh, they thought they were being clever. Look at this, man. Either they just randomly dropped something on here or they thought they were maybe making a fix or something. Solder wick, 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 solder wick, 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 wick. So, while we're covered in garbage, I'm going to go ahead and reflow all the pins on the chips. Fuker. Okay, so, flux, 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 flux. This is corrosion. I'm going to clean that off and reassess. The pads are not taking solder very well, so I've got to check and see if I've already lost connections in this, which would make this an infinitely harder job. So let's get this on beepy mode. So if I look at this guy right here, so we have this goes to here. Yep, all good. So we're good there. Okay, but over here, this pad is not great. And it's clearly just not making connection. That's not making connection. That's not making connection. That one is. This is already starting to become more problematic than I needed it to be for my short video that I was gonna do. There's just, the pads are in various states of disarray, but we'll have to live with what we have here. So now we have to address the 500,000 pound monkey in the room, which is the damage that's already been done. So like this is just all corrosion. This is supposed to be a metal. You can see what it's done to the solder mask. I mean, I feel like somebody must have picked this out of the fucking trash and given it to me. This will certainly color my eBay purchases, but you can see here, this is almost solid. It's broken all the copper up. So I can't even push through it very easily. So what I'm gonna do now is go through and clean the vias out, all of them, and then start testing for continuity and see which ones need to be repaired. Okay, so coming back to this, I did try to put it over here on this board. I tried to take the ROM off and put it over here. I'm not sure how good the footage is going to be from that. So if I cut to this moment, it was pretty bad. But what I did find is that this board's not the same. Duh, that's why it has a different model number. Kind of a jackass move on my part, but we'll move on. We'll grow from it. This board is in really, really, really bad shape. There's a lot of vias that are broken. There's a lot of paths that are fucked up. There's stuff under the chips. But I'm kind of a stubborn asshole. So I'm going to remove the rest of the chip. Probably that guy. I might remove that guy, but I don't know. And I'm going to see what all's going on. So let's go under the microscope. Well, I didn't record anything. This was the chip I took off just now. I just took off this chip as well, which was over here. So I used a hot air gun to take it off. I did not film it because I'm a jackass. I even talked to myself about it. And that guy right there looks like it's probably broken already, so I'm gonna go ahead and take him off. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the solder off these pads. You can kind of see how that pad specifically right there doesn't want to give up its solder, and that's because it's attached to ground or a VCC plane. And so that plane actually soaks up a lot of heat from your iron. So don't fight it too much, you'll end up ripping the pad up, so that looks okay. I've gone through and I've scraped most of where I could find corrosion off, but we're gonna go one step further and clean this board with sodium bicarbonate, baking soda. So if there's any acidic presence of corrosion left, it'll clean that up. I'm gonna do it with distilled water though, so I don't bring a lot of contaminants onto the board other than whatever ions might be present. So this is ready to go get alcohol clean. So I'm gonna go off of the scope now. Okay, let's get a little more aggressive with our cleaning technique. I found something that actually fits this board so I don't have to move it around like an idiot. Okay, so the board is at least clean of flux right now. I did spot another cap that's worrisome over here to the point where I'm gonna go ahead and take it off and then throw it back in. Okay, so I couldn't find distilled white vinegar or distilled water right now. Apparently there's a run on it going on. So I have distilled vinegar that is mixed with distilled water. So we're gonna do our little acid-base reaction here. So it's just baking soda. Essentially wasting a bunch of vinegar. So I'm just gonna let this neutralize. I'm gonna keep going until I stop producing gas. And I would like to have some baking soda like in great excess in the solution so it can't dissolve any further, so that I have some chalkiness to scrape on the board while I'm going. So. Yeah, this looks like a fucking cooking show, and I know it's not supposed to, so. So the basic solution can also have a negative effect and cause corrosion, so you have to get this material back off the board. This is actually working pretty well as far as I can tell, because I'm losing vias, which I know sounds bad, but because this was so corroded, it was hard to tell which vias are there or not, because the corroded metal looks kind of brownish, but it's not conductive. This will help me clean up the vias enough to the point where I might be able to see which ones are broken. Hey. Hey. Yeah? What's wrong? Are you being ignored? I don't want you to feel ignored. No, you're not supposed to do that. This, put it in here, try to use this as a rinse. Okay. Okay, I think that's good. I think we have a board we can say is reasonably clean, definitely free of baking soda. So the next thing is to really make sure this gets dry. Okay, so we are left with a very dry circuit board. Let's see if I can get this up to where you can see like the vias are very clean now. You don't have much of it before, but they were mostly filled with green garbage. So, while I did clean stuff out, that's great, good job, way to go me. That also means that I probably damaged some vias because I had to remove the corrosion, which meant I removed copper. So there are probably connections that are awry here. So, really quickly, for the uninitiated, okay. So if we're looking at a circuit board, and this is a 2-layer board. That is a 2-layer board, and what a 2-layer board means is actually that it is just one sheet of material with 2 layers of copper. So the board is this middle piece. This material is typically composed of FR4. There are more exotic materials you can do, especially if you're doing RF and stuff. Then each layer has copper on it. So it's a nice little sandwich. The FR4 is in the middle. This and this are copper. Okay, where's my pink pen? Holy cow, what am I doing? Alright, so if I want to have a connection that goes from A down to C on the bottom layer, so this is top, bottom, I needed this connection here, and we'll call that B for now. So the way that this actually works is, since the material comes as a sheet, you want to etch off all the copper that is not associated with the trace you're trying to make. So here, A is on this side of the board, so around this side, this material would be removed. Okay? So now you're left with a strip of copper. If you think in 3 dimensions, if I flatten this out right here, A is just a strip of copper. Everything else has been removed in this case. C is down here, so I know that I need to get rid of all this material. Alright, so now I have A and C, and so the way we create B is to drill a hole through the board, and then we coat it with copper. Kind of plate this material in here. So if you look at it in 3 dimensions, if I'm looking at it from a top view, it looks like a circle, right? So it would be right here. That is a via. A gets to C via the via, right? So that's our B section. So what happens is, when this material got in that corroded it, most likely water set in here, and it had a chemical reaction with the copper that changed it to some oxide. And so what that's commonly looks like is patina, like the Statue of Liberty. But it's not very conductive, and it eats the material away and flakes away from the copper, so we lose B. So I need to recreate B in every place on this board where a via is dead. So I have to go through and I have to find a way to get a hold of this copper and a hold of this copper to recreate that connection. I have to do it every time it's present as a broken part. That means that I have a lot of work probably to do. And again, there might not be a payoff here because I do not know if the ROM chip works. So, deep breath. We're gonna test vias. I'll show you at least one broken one so you can see what I'm trying to do. Then I'll show you how to fix one, and then I'll fix all of them and show you that. So, all right, let's look at an example. So, if I look at this pin of this chip, I'm in beeper mode. So that's just my DMM saying that the connection is less than 400 ohms. So if I look at this pin, I'm gonna hold it up for you. I'm looking at 3 up. So 1, 2, 3. There's a little trace goes to that via, but it's also gonna pop out over here somewhere, come out and connect to here. So that's like that road I showed you on the piece of paper. So if I put on that pad and I just kind of run across here, so I know that I have a good connection. So boom. In that case, I tested 2 vias and I'm good to go. So next I'll come back and show you a bad via. It didn't take too long. I have 2 bad vias right beside each other and they're doing the same thing. On a Game Boy cartridge, you have a VDD. The reference for that is called ground. We know that every device needs to have power and ground. Power in this case being VDD. So VDD comes up and touches these 2 vias. These looked particularly bad. I've turned the board over, and those vias pop out right here. But that trace then connects and goes over to these 2 vias. So now I can find those on this side, so I can give you a test all on one side, and those vias are here. I'm gonna go from here to the 2 vias through the board. That trace comes around, connects to these 2 vias, and connects here. So if I check from here to here, I should have continuity. So that means either these 2 are bad or these 2 are bad. I'm going to assume these 2 are bad. So that's the first ones we're going to fix. How do we fix this via? So the way that we do that is we need to expose copper on both sides of the board where we're going to make connections. So one side is going to be here. I'm going to fix both vias, even though they do serve the same purpose. Go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. So now we have a nice little place to land some wire. So gotta bring our nasty friend Flux back to the party. And we'll put just a touch of it right there. So this is where we'll make our connections. So what we want to do now is take our magnet wire and send it through that hole. And I like to keep it as short as possible for a run. Take my tweezers and really bend that over to make sure I have a good bend. Bring my iron back. I'm trying to keep this nice and flat so when I solder mask it, it looks okay. Okay, so I have that one side tacked down. Now, I know I want that in that area there, and it's better to cut first. Okay. Now we lay this down with my shit tweezers. That's probably why they're shit. I don't know. We get a dab of flux. Boom. And we do just a touch of solder here. I'm gonna go ahead and do both real quick. So, we're done with that fix. Does it work? We know that we need to go from there to there. Now those could both be broken. So we come back with our friends. And we see, I'm gonna come down to VDD. Come back up, holding that one there. See if we get it here. Okay, so these are still there. I'll probably fix them anyway. Now I gotta do this probably for the next 4 days. Okay, I wanted to take a second to show you where I'm at. I have repaired a lot of vias. Let's just say over 25. I then went through and tested the remaining vias to make sure they were okay. So I started down here and I just measured them through the board to make sure they made it through their area. I just wanted to show you all the blue dots were tested vias. There's one more damaged via right there that I have to fix. So you can just see these are all scraped back to make sure that we have connections. I could have done very few of these and just said, oh, well, they're all on the same plane. But I wanted to make sure that I kind of replicated a lot of the OEM. What I probably will do is just pin this all out myself and then route my own board and make myself a new one. Even though I like original stuff better, I like modded stuff too. So maybe that's my chance to take this one if the ROM still works, which is essentially all I'm gonna find out by the end of this project. So this side we're already trying to put the paint on. We're putting solder mask over the top of it and I'll UV cure it. Here's some of the fixes on this side. I couldn't tack to this trace here. I moved this wire and I actually cut it flush and tacked to the top of the via, so that because that goes under a chip. Just a lot of fixes throughout. And right now I just need to cover them up.
All right. This is where the fun starts. Wiggle that brush. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle that brush. Maybe there's a happy little tree that lives right here. That's all there is to it.
Okay, so we have all of our kind of damaged areas covered. So we're ready to go under the UV light. I'll start that process with you and then we'll come back whenever it's done. So, taking it from under the scope, putting it right here. Oh, gotta plug it in apparently to get it to work. So Okay, so the back of this board is cured. Got our solder mask so it doesn't look like just a copper landscape over here. Back to the front, just wanted to show you a quick overview of the top. I'm gonna get to painting and get the solder mask cured, and then we'll come back whenever we're putting parts down. Okay, we've UV cured all of our little solder mask additions. So yep, up close it looks pretty bad. From far away I can tell you though, it looks pretty bad. But it covers most of our problem areas, and that's what we were after. So let's start putting parts back on. We're gonna start over here. This is the MBC chip. I haven't fully gone through and determined what all these things do, but if I had to guess, we have ROM, RAM, microcontroller, and then this is just the supervisor chip again. So I didn't go into detail, but essentially the supervisor chip just says, okay, if I have power from below, I'll give power to these things. So if it's in a cartridge. If I have battery power, then I'll only supply a little bit of power to the SRAM so that I can keep the save files going. And that's what this current limiter does. So that's my guess, and I'm sticking to it. So we're gonna start right here. Got a soldering iron in my mouth. Okay, so that's one. Okay, so all the soldering is done. There's flux everywhere that I can't literally let go of this thing. So I'm gonna clean up and I'll come back hopefully with a clean board and less sticky hands. Okay, so we have a finished board. I don't have the battery on. I don't have a battery right now, but this thing didn't even boot up. It should boot up without a battery, so. Solder mask looks alright. It held up okay with the alcohol, which is kind of cool. Feel pretty good about that. This chip went through some hell as I refloated on and off boards, because I tried it on the other board, then realized, hey, this actually isn't compatible, you dumb fudger. So I think we're at that point where we need to test it. So I'm gonna grab my Game Boy, which I put away whenever in a fit of frustration the other day. Is it 11?
Yeah, it's 11. Just about there.
Damn. Okay. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. But it's even worse than when I started.
What? How? You did so much work.
Okay, so I had 2 loose pins in the device. But I think we've got it all figured out now. So put it in, power on. I already know that it will turn on because I tested it while I was off screen, but there it is. So I have a working Pokemon Blue. I have to still put a battery in, so I'm not gonna button it up too much, but the fix is there. All the connections are making do, and people call him Professor Oak, you know, and this world's inhabited by creatures called So, just so that everyone knows I didn't do a switcheroo here. There's our highly modified Pokemon cartridge. So please leave comments, things to change. I really just want to keep moving, keep getting better. So I appreciate everything, and we'll see you next time.